Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to 105.3 and 107.7 on FM out of New Orleans in Mississippi to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. And you're listening to or watching the Angel Rock, and I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. My guest just popped in. I didn't know if I was doing a show on my own or not, but he's here, so I will bring him in just a minute once I finish up our intros here. You guys know I always have a few housekeeping things. So welcome. A little bit about myself. I am a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, as well as a registered nurse. I'm also a budding animal communicator, well-versed in near-death experiences, having had one myself as a toddler. And I've studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years. I'm also extremely well-versed in the paranormal, having experienced an extreme haunting of my own in my previous home. We've shared our experience on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivors, Season 4, Episode 9, called Demonic Hauntings. Also, if you want to join in the conversation, like Nicole Thomas Ryan and many of the other people that come in here, because if you follow this show or the second show that I co-host on the network on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my good friend and very gifted medium and angel channel, David Hansel, called The Thing at the Foot of the Bed. You know, both shows are very audience participative. So what you do is you're going, because 80% of our audience is audio only, and we do broadcast to every country in the world. This network's been around for 25 plus years. So where you're going to head to is UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network on Facebook and YouTube. I'm streaming to my YouTube channel, which is the Angel Rock of Lorilei Potvin. I'm also streaming to my personal Facebook profile, which is public, so anybody can watch on there, Lorilei Potvin. We are streaming on the Angel Rock on Instagram, and we're also on Roku. We have our own TV channel for the network. And how you're going to find that is you're going to go to the channel store and type in UFO space P as in paranormal. And there's a drop down list. And we're about the third or fourth one down. You're looking for UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. And you can watch us on TV if you'd like. And like I said, this network has been around for 25 plus years. We stream multiple shows 7 days a week. When we're not streaming live, the archive server kicks in and randomly picks shows over the last 25 plus years. So there's something really for everybody on this network. I believe, if I heard through the grapevine, we're up to 40 live hosts on this network. So there really is something for everybody. So please like, share, and subscribe. We've got Jody Matella. We've got Debbie Schmoley, Diane Brighton. Welcome. So I'm going to bring my poor guest on. He's a busy guy, so I didn't even know he was going to be able to make it. Come on. Hi, Alfred. How are you?
Hi there. And listen, I want to apologize to you and to your audience for being a bit late. We had one of those mishaps. And I'm glad that I made it, but I want to apologize for being a few minutes late.
You know what? Don't worry about it. I go with the flow. I felt bad keeping you behind the scenes. I'm going to introduce you properly. I just got one more thing I do want to share. So hang on. So come hang out with us here in Thunder Bay, Northwestern Ontario, Canada. This October 4th to 6th, 2024 for the Lake Superior Paranormal Convention. That's where I live in Thunder Bay, and it is a crazy spot. We got all kinds of paranormal activity, UFO activity, every kind of cryptid you can think of we've got here. Tickets are available now. It's being put on by Lucky Paranormal. It's a wife and wife team, Mel and Gail Willis of Lucky Paranormal. They were on the Angel Rock in April. So there's VIP Plus, there's Supernatural and VIP passes available, but they are limited. And as I understand it, over half of them are sold out already. There's going to be talks, workshops, a paranormal investigation, and vendors. The guest speakers will include Shane Pittman, Jeff Belanger, our own Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. I'm sure many of you know her, and if you don't, you need to check her show out on Fridays from 6 to 8 p.m. Spirit Switchboard. I joined her last week on there. We had a ball together. She has an amazing show. She's also a fellow Canadian, gifted medium, psychic, as well as paranormal investigator, and just an absolute sweetheart. So I can't wait to meet her in person. We also have the Travel Channels Beyond the Haunting. Chris Rutkowski, he covers UFOs and Bigfoot. Dee McCauley, who's local here of Dark History. He's also been on the Angel Rock a few years back. And the Winnipeg Paranormal Group, and so many more, including myself. I will be giving a talk at this, and I also will have a vendor table. So we'd love to have you join us. I'd love to meet you all in person. So we're going to head to his Lake Superior Paracon.com. So now my guest, I didn't get a chance to talk to him before, so I got to say, no, we got to be very careful, Alfred, what we say on here. There's special guests that I have on my show who you know well as well. Dr. Rima, we've had on. I have had on Dr. Carrie Madej, but I've learned from experience. So I kept you a surprise. So nobody cuts off our feed, because you are an amazing gentleman. You have done wonderful things. You are a multi-book author. You are an international lawyer. You are a truth seeker. You are a fighter for freedom. I know you are so well-versed in ufology, secret space program. We could go on and on. So welcome. This is the first time you've been on my show.
Well, thank you very much. You know, you can.
Did I miss anything?
You can see there in the back on the window some of my books.
You have written so many, and I'm trying to write 3 books.
25 books.
How many?
25 titles on Amazon.
You are also a very good friend of the owner of our network, who I will give a huge shout out, because he provides this platform for us, which is Joe Montaldo. And you've known him for quite a few years.
Oh, yeah.
25 books.
Good. Well, we're both what they call Louisiana Creoles.
You don't quite have the accent that Joe does. Is that because you've become Canadianized?
No, I'm one of the few Louisiana Creoles that lives in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Mm-hmm. But Joe has that Creole accent, boy. He sure does. And I think what he does when he sends a text, for example, he uses voice to text. And I always call it speaking Joe-ese, because it tries to translate what he's saying and to try and understand what he sent in the text message. So you've kind of lost some of that accent. So what do you want to talk about?
You know, what I did today, I sat down with my wife. My wife, Jerry, is a PhD, a PhD psychotherapist, and also a psychic.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, she's a graduate of the Berkeley Psychic Institute. So she does something called psi therapy. So I sat down with her and I said, let's do some psychic reading. And I'm on Lorilei Potvin show. And what do you think of all of my 25 books?
Okay.
What do you think? What book do you think will resonate most deeply with her audience? Okay. And we went boom. And this is the book that came up. This is a book called The Dimensional Ecology of the Omniverse.
Cool.
And this is from my Omniverse trilogy. I've written a book. I've written a trilogy of books on what we call the Omniverse. And the Omniverse, you've got universe, multiverse, omniverse. And
you might have to explain that more deeply for people, because remember, we got people listening from every country. Not everybody comes from a spiritual background. So
so this is universe, multiverse, omniverse.
Okay.
And the universe was discovered around 3200 BC by the Sumerian astronomers, and
Okay.
is a singularity of of time, space, and matter. And
Okay.
we live in our own universe. And there's one book that says that the name of our universe has its own name. And the name of our universe is Uversa. That's
I've
what
never
one
heard
book.
that before.
Really?
I have
Oh,
not heard that. No.
oh, really? Well, there's this book. It's a very interesting book here. It's a channel book, about 2,500 pages, called the Urantia book. And this book says that the name of our book, this is a channel book about the structure of our universe. You can get it free contents by going to Urantia, URANTIA.org,
I'm going to write that down.
urantia.org.
Okay.
And uh, uh, that the name of our universe,
It is here.
yeah. So it is it tells you what the name of our universe is there, and so
Alfred, I'm going to ask you who was channeled to give this information. Can you share a little bit about that?
sure. Um, the history is this book was published in 1955,
Okay.
and it was channeled in Chicago over the course of about 20 years uh, through coordinated by William Sadler,
Okay.
and they channeled it and published it in 1955.
But were
And
they channeling a collective?
it's called the Fifth Epochal Revelation to the Planet. It's the form of a book. The fourth epochal revelation to the planet was 2,000 years earlier in the form of a man, and that was Jesus Christ. And so
Interesting.
what they said is that 2,000 years ago, they sent a man. God came in the form of a man, Jesus. And then the Urantia book is a book that was published in 1955. And this is a follow-up of Jesus, i.e., it's in 4 parts, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And part 4 is like the television version of the life of Jesus. You've got a day-to-day version of the life of Jesus here,
Interesting.
part 4,
Mm-hmm.
because the 4 Gospels, the synoptic Gospels in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
were just written up from notes from the 4 evangelists and are historically very incomplete. So there's you ask, what's that web address? And that's URANTIA.org. And you have the whole book is there, can be channeled and downloaded for free.
Alfred, I wanted to ask you, because I think that's very interesting, because I have always felt intuitively, as well as I mean, I'm by no means a Bible expert, but somebody had to channel that information to put it into the book. But what I'm interested also in knowing with this book that you're speaking of, did you said it was William? Who was he channeling? Did he know? Did they just define themselves as a collective? Were they 18?
This is the higher there. there was a hierarchy
Okay.
that was designated by the universe governance
Okay.
to channel the rest of the message. Uh, the fifth apocalyptic revelation for the planet,
Okay.
and that hierarchy directed him to gather these people to channel this, and there was a commission then that put together, and they dictated it,
Okay.
and they channeled it, uh, uh, and published it in in 1955. And this is I'm just looking through it. These are the table of contents. I'm looking through the table of contents.
Does it make any prophecies in there, Alfred? Like, has anything come true if there are prophecies?
Well, prophecies. It's really more. Let me go to the first page.
Okay.
Forward. Well, this is a forward. Forward. In the minds of the mortals of Urantia, that being the name of your world, there exists great confusion respecting the meaning of such terms as God, divinity, and deity. Human beings are still more confused and uncertain about the relationships of the divine personalities designated by these numerous appellations. Because of this conceptual poverty associated with so much ideational confusion, I have been directed to formulate this introductory statement in explanation of the meanings which should be attached to certain word symbols, as they may be hereinafter used in those papers which the Orvanton Corps of Truth revealers have been authorized to translate into the English language of Urantia.
Okay.
So that's the first paragraph of this forward, and um, uh, I'm just going to the first source and center. Total infinite reality is existential in 7 phases and as 7 coordinate absolutes. The first source and center, the second source and center, the third source and center, the Isle of Paradise, the deity absolute, the universal absolute, the unqualified absolute. And then it just goes on. So it goes on to define the nature of God. And this is the nature of God and of the universe. And so this is Urantia, the Urantia book.
You know what? When I was looking, I typed it in my phone while we were just talking, and there's an app for it. And I obviously have downloaded it before, not read it, obviously, but I had the little arrow saying it's been downloaded before.
Oh,
So Zson Dragon, he's actually a fellow Canadian. He or I Kevin, as I call him, he's got a question, and I read it out because we are audio only. So he says multiverse would be a variation or similar double of our own. In the comic books, there are 52, for example. I won't attempt to define the omniverse, though, but he said that book is amazing.
yeah. So that it to go back to uh, uh, the Omniverse books. These are my 3 Omniverse books. See,
Okay.
I became a
Hi.
Urantia book reader quite some time ago.
Okay.
Actually, in Christmas Eve, 1973.
Okay.
I was first introduced to it, And so that's 73.
That's almost 50 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I've been a reader of the Urantia book for about 50 years.
Okay.
So, and a lot of my work is based on that. My work in exopolitics, I'm credited with being, my book Exopolitics is credited with inventing the science of exopolitics. And I based my book uh, Exopolitics on that. Okay. And this book was actually secretly time traveled by the secret CIA, DARPA CIA time travel program from 2005 when it was published back to 1971.
Can we talk about time travel? Because that is right up my alley. Like, I love to talk about
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So what do
sure.
you know about time travel? Being careful that we're on YouTube, so we might have to kind of go around a word to some certain words if we have to. But you're a smart man, Alfred.
Well, the only thing I've been censored on YouTube about is something having to do with a particular illness, but that's the only thing.
Yeah, well, we've been been a little bit more censored with our channel here. So, but go ahead, don't worry, we'll figure it out. I know you will, but let's go for it. I want to hear all about the time travel. I'm super excited.
Well, this book was originally published in 2005 as a paperback. It was published in the year 2000 as an ebook.
Okay.
And the 2005 paperback was time traveled back to 1971, where it was viewed by a time traveler who saw it and who then became a whistleblower in the year 2000 and who revealed that to me in the year 2000.
Interesting.
Yeah. And in 1971, 50 members of the secret CIA time travel program. In 1971, I was general counsel of the Environmental Protection Administration of the city of New York.
Okay.
And part of my duties were to go out in public and give public talks, like the student groups or environmental groups, about the protection of the environment. And one day I got an invitation from a group. This man came and picked me up. He was very formal in a suit and tie. I went, he picked me up. I accompanied him. We drove about 2 hours. We came to the second floor of a house. I went up there and there were about 50 men in suits and ties and in shirts and ties. And I gave them a talk on the protection of the environment. And they were 50 members of the secret CIA time travel division that had asked me to give a talk under false pretenses because they had a copy of my book in 1971, my book Exopolitics, that had been brought back from the future.
Wow.
2005 to 1971. And they want to see what I look like.
Oh, I thought maybe they were testing you. So they wanted to see.
Right. And we're now in 2024. I wrote this in the year 2000. They wanted to know what I looked like in 2004 because they brought it back to 1971, this book.
How did
And
you
this
even deal
founded
with? How
the
did you
whole
deal with
science
that?
of exopolitics.
How did
And
you even deal with that, Alfred?
that's how the secret CIA program operated. I call it time travel surveillance.
Yeah, but how
And
did you even deal with
out
that?
of that, I developed what I call the chronogarchy. The
Okay.
chronogarchy is a secret hierarchy, a time travel government that rules our reality through time. They travel future, backwards and forward in time, and they rule our reality through time.
Okay, so I've asked you three
The
times because I'm so
chronogarchy,
excited.
and I wrote a whole book. Here, I'll have to show you it. I wrote a whole
How did
book
you deal with this,
on
Alfred?
the chronogarchy because I did all my I began interviewing all of these whistleblowers that went public, uh, who were from the secret time travel program, and I interviewed them, and this is my book, The Chronogarchy. It's about 700 pages, and this is
So you must have interviewed Andrew Bashago then.
he's the person who saw my book.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
How
we
did you
saw
deal with
it
this?
in 1971.
Yeah, but how did you deal with this? Like, how did you know to believe this? Was it because they knew about your book already that you hadn't quite written yet? Or like, what made you a believer?
Because it hit my soul. Because I, as I entered the room back in 1971,
Yeah.
people in the room were going. They were making all kinds of faces at me. Right? It
Right.
wasn't. It wasn't. It was not an environmentalist audience. It
Right.
was an audience of the secret time travel program that had time traveled my book. So they were looking at me as the author of this book, and they were going,
Oh
they
my,
were
why were
making
they making the
faces at me.
faces?
And so I was trying to maintain my cool, but I saw that something was up, right?
Okay.
I knew that I was in a room that was government surveillance and that something was up, right?
Right. Okay.
Something was up. See, because I was raised in Cuba and I was in communist jails then, and then I escaped from Cuba. You see what I'm saying? So I was used to totalitarian governments that survey you. So
I've
this
known
is
you for how
another
many years?
totalitarian government that was surveying you.
I've known you for how many years? And I know I'm learning so much about, like, I've known some of this stuff, but I didn't know you grew up in Cuba. Like, I didn't know any of
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I grew up in Cuba up until August of 1960.
Okay.
When I was 18 years old, I had already been accepted for admission into Yale University that autumn,
Okay.
and we were expelled in August of 1960. But so I grew up bilingual.
Oh.
See,
¿Tú hablas español?
my my mother is on the Cuban side. My father's on the U.S. side. My mother was the daughter of Cuban and American.
Ah, tú hablas español.
Sí.
Yo hablo un poco. I forget a lot.
Yeah. So time, because we're and the chronogarchy, the secret time travel government, which is like the deep state. They always say, "Oh, outer space is going to come in and take us over," and they don't tell you it's deep time. They rule you from deep time. not from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. It's just, it's more than you think. Well, anyway, this is exopolitics, which is the science of exopolitics. This is my book that founded the science of exopolitics. And then the omniverse, to get back to that the gentleman's question, so you've got universe, multiverse, omniverse. And the universe was discovered around 3200 BC.
Right, as you said.
There a singularity of time, energy, and space discovered by the Sumerian astronomers.
Mm-hmm.
The multiverse was discovered in 1895 by the American scientist William James. 1895, it's not that long ago. And then the omniverse was discovered by Alfred Lambermont Weber and by a scientist named Bertolacci. We both published books on the omniverse in 2014. Ooh. So this is one of the books that discovered the omniverse. And the omniverse equation is omniverse equals multiverse. In other words, the sum of all the universes plus the intelligent civilization of souls, spiritual beings, and God. In other words, the omniverse is the spiritual study of the spiritual dimensions that traditionally was in the spiritual realm, but now we're studying it in the scientific realm.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And two scientists from Stanford University made an estimate of the number of universes in the multiverse. The omniverse equals the sum of the universes in the multiverse. And the number of universes in the multiverse, we're in one universe, is 10 to the 7th to the 7th to the 7th. Okay. Wow. And that number is so large that it doesn't have a name. Okay. That number doesn't have a name, but if you were to write it out in longhand, it would be 26 million miles long. That number. Wow. That's how many universes there are in the multiverse, and we're in only one universe. So so among my life accomplishments is I discovered the omniverse. I wrote 3 books about it, and that's why the secret CIA time travel had me as a person of interest, and that's why I've written a book called The Chronogarchy. Okay. In other words, I've mapped them, and what my wife tells me is that my books are going to be really famous about 100 years from now, because I'm so far ahead of my time. So I'm glad to be on your show.
I'm glad to have you on. I have a great audience always. They're very intelligent. They ask great questions. So like I said, we go out to every country. So there'll be people that have never heard this before going, what? So I'm going to share this. But before I do, I want to ask you one question. This is from Christina Lantis. But what I wanted to ask you is, when did time travel start? Because I believe wholeheartedly, my rule of thumb is we, the people, whatever we are aware of, the powers that be are 75 to 100, probably more years ahead, because we're going to get less to know.
Well, see, that is the paradox.
Okay.
That's a great question, and that's a great paradox, because to understand, to really appreciate time travel, you almost have to go into a different grokking of things about time.
True.
Okay. Under time, everything exists at once.
Yep.
Okay. It exists right now, and it's just we're experiencing it serially. Okay.
Can I stop you just for 1 sec? Do you believe? Okay, so this is what I've always said about time, and if I'm wrong, I'm open to anybody. Something that resonates with me. I agree with everything you've said, but is it not just a man-made created thing, time, right? In order for us to kind of sequence things and make sense of what's going on around us, or I know it's a lot more complex than that, but really simplified, or is there more to it with your knowledge base that you've perceived it as?
Well, put it this way. Let me express it this way. We live inside a universe. We've got universe, multiverse, omniverse. Okay. And we're inside a particular universe that's called Uversa.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uversa. And inside that universe here, we're on, let's just take our Earth, okay?
Okay.
Okay. We can look at our Earth here as a time, space, matter, reincarnation environment.
Okay.
That's what we've incarnated into. And the universe, our universe,
Yep.
is, we can reformulate it as a time, space, matter, reincarnation environment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a spiritual dimension of souls,
Yeah,
that are charged with maintaining that time, space environment and maintaining the universe, the universe, and maintaining the galaxies and the solar systems within it, and
right.
keeping it running. And sort of part of our duties as a spirit, as souls, the intelligent civilization of souls. I'm in these books on the omniverse. I describe how the intelligent civilization of souls is organized, how souls are created in the omniverse,
Okay.
in the spiritual dimensions, and what the mission of souls is. And the mission of souls is to create the universes and to maintain the universes. In other words, we're like many gods because each soul is a holographic fragment of God.
True.
We are this, I describe in here how individual souls are created as holographic fragments of God. And there's a principle of holography, and that is that the whole of the hologram exists in each fragment of the hologram, so
True.
that the whole of God exists in me, and the
True.
whole of God exists in you, so that I am God and you're God in that sense. And part of our mission, we can have different types of missions. Let's say that right now my soul and your soul has been deployed to incarnate on earth as part of soul development. And we are in a particular school in soul development. And that has all kinds of rules and regulations. And it's done here with all kinds of guides that assist us.
True.
And in other phases, we can be deployed to oversee how time operates in galaxies of the universe, how time space are deployed in universes, the creation of solar systems, the creation of universes, the creation of races within universes, because the universes, a universe is created as a venue for the incarnation of souls.
True. Okay.
That's like the zoo within which we go and we have incarnation adventures to develop.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I concur 100%.
That is how it's done. And what the Omniverse series of books has done, because they're all science-based, is that it describes the science of the Omniverse, how this is created and how it's deployed, and the principles on which the Omniverse and the soul is based. It's the universe, the multiverse, and the Omniverse.
I have so many questions.
The science of the basis of the soul and God, and then the matter and time and space in the universes. Okay.
I have so many questions. Okay, so
there's all kind of detail in each of those books as to how all that happens.
Okay, so I have a question for you, because I agree with everything you're saying, and I'm fascinated. Like, I'm literally like hanging off the edge of my seat here. So, how would science define somebody that's done some really awful things on this planet? Done really awful things to humanity, for example, without naming it. We won't name any details. You and I probably can think of many. But my point is, what would be the purpose in the universe, our universe, for example, having, I'll just pick a name, Jeffrey Dahmer. That's not the only one, but I'll pick someone like that that's done a lot of crime and awful things to humanity. And I'm hearing this almost like somebody listening to this is thinking, yeah, well, I get it, but how does it explain it? What would be their purpose as a soul? And I understand, like, we have free will.
Okay, well, that gets into a lot of that example gets into a lot of complexity. Okay?
I figured.
Like, you just asked the question, which I would have to bring in this about, okay?
Okay.
And this about, okay? And a little bit of exopolitics about, because that gets into the history of Earth, okay?
Okay.
And the history of Earth is that we are a highly afflicted planet that had a rebellion here, the Lucifer rebellion. See, this book gives you the history of Earth and the history of the Lucifer rebellion. And that is where there was a very advanced angel called Lucifer, the light being.
Lightbringer,
who rebelled against God and was the angel for this quadrant of our universe and our solar system, and historically took about 30 planets or so and turned them into hell on earth. And we're just emerging from the Lucifer rebellion now. And that's why this planet here has the history of the Dahmers, and that's why Jesus came to this planet to take it out of the Lucifer rebellion, and he had a face-to-face with Lucifer here, and he ended the Lucifer rebellion here on Earth, and we're still in that aftermath. And that's part of what's in here.
So would you call demons, for example, because I know I've never had a chance to share this story with you, but I will very quickly. How my spiritual journey began many years ago. I've always had strange, unusual things. 8 years old, for about 6 months in a brand new house, waking up at 3 a.m. unable to breathe. I literally was having something around my neck, and I knew nothing about the paranormal then. I've had paranormal around me since I was I can remember 3 or 4. But my point is, how I had started my spiritual journey. I felt that call. I'd always been very connected to angels and things like that. And I'd also seen some very incredible, miraculous things working in palliative care as well as in the NICU at the beginning of life. But I had this dream one night, and it happened about 17 years ago. It's like it happened 10 minutes ago. And it was in my previous home where the activity was, and there was a tree in the front yard. There was a man sitting in that tree, and I was outside. He was in a very expensive dark charcoal striped suit, white silk shirt, black silk tie, hair all slicked back to here, very close, neatly trimmed goatee and mustache, okay? But it was his eyes. They were going from black to flame, and he was trying to tempt me to follow him. He had said, I had started a little jewelry creation business and stuff. And he said, well, Lorilei, you know, that little business you have, that's nothing. I can give you wealth. I can give you fame. I can give you anything beyond your wildest dreams. All you have to do is agree to follow me. In that dream, it's not radio friendly where I told this thing to go. And I said, who are you? He identified himself as a demon, told me his name and spelt it. And again, I told him where to go much more emphatically than the first time. So it was some pretty colorful language. And he started laughing at me and mocking me and saying, oh, no, 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 no. Every time you see a crow or a raven, you'll know who it is. And I remember in that dream calling on Archangel Michael. The colors I can't even begin to describe with English or with words, but it was like a royal blue, silver, and white. I woke up in a sweat, shaking and crying, which is not me. And all heck did break loose in my old house. So I'm so fascinated about this because I agree with everything you've said. So why would we still have energetic beings like this coming through? I know we're moving into a new era, but do you have any ideas on that, Alfred? Like, why would something like that happen?
Yeah, you know, everything you said resonates with the Lucifer rebellion, including with the fact that the spiritual name of Jesus is Michael.
Okay.
You could have actually been talking directly spiritually to Jesus at that time, and that could have been part of the Lucifer rebellion trying to enroll you at that time
I
that you
agree.
were starting your spiritual journey. And you know, you got to serve somebody, you know, either this way or that.
You know what I laugh about, Alfred? It obviously didn't know me very well because no way, no how that was happening. And this was a
No,
dream.
no, right. But I mean, it seems to me that people here on Earth are faced with those tests. I know
True.
that's how I first came up with these tests, was face to face.
I would
In
love
that
to hear.
way.
Would you be comfortable sharing that story?
Sure.
Okay.
Uh, that's a story that I've also I'm you know I books is how I let me see if I have that here, is how I share that
Mm-hmm.
uh, and that's how I share it. My journey landing heaven on earth. Okay.
Okay.
And this happened to me. Okay, so it's shortly after. Remember, in 1971, I
Yep.
was general
Yep.
counsel of the Environmental Protection. Well, I'm having all these experiences in 1971. Remember, I'm going out and I'm talking in public, doing the environmental talks, and one of the environmental talks I'm doing is with a secret time travel people. Remember?
Yes.
And
I can't forget.
who had brought my book back to 1971. Well, then fast forward to January 1973,
Okay.
and in January 1973, Mayor John Lindsay, who's mayor of New York, decides he wants to run for U.S. president, and Jerome Kretschmer, who's the head of the EPA, decides he wants to run for mayor, and I decide that I want to do something spiritual, right? And I don't want to do this anymore. That I decide that, you know, government. I want to get into the spiritual. I want to get out of the
Mm-hmm.
out of the government, and then so that in one night there, my then wife was an architect, and she had gone up to, and we lived in this loft in Soho in Manhattan.
Wow. Okay.
It was an industrial area, and she had designed it as an artist loft that got featured in New York Magazine and everything, you know.
I can almost see it for some reason. I don't know why, but it was beautiful, Alfred, what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And so she went up to Vermont, and so I was there with our then infant son, Freddie, and it was about midnight, and I was up in the front of the loft, you know, doing my stuff, and then all of a sudden I was kind of interpreting biblical prophecies, what I used to do then, and all of a sudden it was like this being of light came down on me, right,
Mm-hmm.
over all of me, and started talking to me telepathically.
Yep.
And and so I said, "Who are you?" And it said, "I am the Holy Spirit." You know, and I just stayed. Whoa!
That's what I went in and whoa.
And then we went back and forth, and we were talking, and I was being shown stuff, and then I said, "Wait a minute, who am I?" And then it said, "Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will found my church." And that's a direct quote from one of the Gospels, Matthew, and it's a direct quote about St. Peter, you know, Peter and the rock, and etc. And I went, "Oh, wait a minute," and you know, and then I was taken into missing time, and I was taken up into a ship, you know.
Okay.
And from there, I was shown a movie of the future of my life.
Wow.
And I just went up into timelessness, and I saw the future of my life, which was to bring all of these messages, you know. And I was taken outside of time, and I was in time. Well, while I was up there in the ship, Andrew Bashago was in the ship.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he had been placed there by the ETs so that I have a witness that I was in the ship.
Okay.
And he testified. He and I did a show together in Washington State, so that he testified and that he was an eyewitness to me on the ship, so that I was on the ship at that time. Anyway, I'm just kind of,
I'm going to stop you for 1 sec because I just realized people might be going, "Who's Andrew Bashago?" I know who he is. You know who he is.
yeah.
He was part of the secret space program as a child, and there's way more to it. But just so people have a reference, right, Alfred?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so both he and I are lawyers, and
Yep.
he was in the secret time travel program, and he was also a secret Mars explorer on behalf of the
Ooh.
CIA. In other words, he had been teleported to Mars, and he had been time travel, but he was a whistleblower. So a lot of the whistleblowing, he's done it to me, and I publish it in these books in these various formats,
Mhm.
so that a lot of the data that I'm using come from Andrew Bashago and the various cohorts of whistleblowers that he's organized.
Okay. So, you know what? It's interesting and it's nice that you have somebody that can corroborate, Andrew, what happened with you, because while I was in my previous home, I was going to the store. I didn't get a lot of sleep in that home. Somebody had to stay awake all night long to watch over my 2 children and my partner because he almost died because of what had happened to him paranormally. There's no other explanation for it.
Oh,
But the point is, I was going to the store and I do have a back injury. So to walk, it's a little bit, I usually walk with a cane. So I drove and I've lived in this city my whole life. And literally to go to the store from my old home would have taken 2 minutes. I went to the lights, blinked. Next thing I know, my phone is ringing. I am miles away from where I was. It's my partner calling me, knowing that I hadn't slept a lot, thinking I got into an accident. And he's saying, "Where are you?" And I said, "I don't know." And he's going, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, "I don't know. I will call you back." I was even surprised I got cell service because I was in front of this half circle building. I remember it had broken out windows, and I was something of a community visiting nurse before I hurt my back and had done most of these rural places. I have never seen this building since. I don't know where it was. Obviously, somewhere close to where I live because I was able to drive back home. It took me about a half hour, but I was in the opposite direction, and I have never found out what happened during that.
so that could be the same thing that happened to me that we call a missing time experience.
Absolutely. It was about an
I.e.,
hour and a half gone.
yeah,
Mhm.
i.e., so you were probably taken into an interdimensional experience.
Okay.
And so that's what happened to me in February of 1973.
Wow.
And that was what started my whole journey in exopolitics and the omniverse, and that broke me out of where I was before being the general counsel government person. And then I went full time into the omniverse.
Because you take the lid off of Pandora's box and you can't put it back on. You just can't after what we think is normal everyday life. I always say that's nothing, because once you open this doorway, a little crack, like you realize how infinitely, massively enormous what really is, I think, going on in the world versus what we think is our little bubble. Would you agree?
Yes, yes. And here there's Christina is saying, after the alien and UFO sighting I had in 1996, for a year, a DOD person kept calling.
Mhm.
So is that she's calling in
Oh,
the
sorry.
U.S., right?
Sorry?
It, she's calling from the U.S.
Yeah, she's in the US. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know who it
yeah.
is.
So
Yep.
she's saying that in 1996 she had an alien and UFO sighting,
Mhm.
and then for a year after that, a DOD person kept calling her. And that's probably because the DOD was tracking the alien and UFO that she saw. And so she became a person of interest for the DOD, and then they were tracking her as a contactee.
What are your thoughts? Okay, I know Joe Montaldo has done this study 20 plus years of the Rh negative blood, green eyes, red hair that didn't exist thousands of years ago in our DNA genetic profiles. The reason I mention it is my mother, who believes in none of this, has red hair, green eyes, and Rh negative blood. And then I have a missing time thing. I have videos of UFOs I have caught, mind you, in the area that I am in as well. Like it's crazy. Do you think that
Okay.
there? Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Could you repeat the particular question again?
Okay. So I know Joe Montaldo
Yeah.
on his ICAR, I think it's .net, his ICAR site, International Center for Alien Research. He has a survey there to survey people that have Rh negative blood, red hair, and green eyes to see what their contact has been. Are they reporting what they believe to say be an abduction? They're seeing UFOs, whatever it may be, right? Because in his belief, and he's explained it to me, that thousands of years ago, those three components, Rh negative blood, green eyes, and red hair, did not exist in our genetic profile as a human species. So where did it come from? And my mother, is what I said, has all three of those.
Very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I just see myself as being from a contactee point of view, and that is I was contacted, and then I had all of these functional contacts, which led to exopolitics, which led to the omniverse, which led to the Urantia, which led to the chronography. But that's because I have a certain type of mind, which is like highly functional. I have a futures type mind. I was in Stanford Research Institute for a while, and they told me a lot of secrets there, and I've written some futurist books based on the research that I did there for a while, which we don't know. There's a big election coming up in 2024, and so in 1977. I was a futurist at Stanford Research Institute, and they had a 50-year contract, 50-year futures of the USA,
right?
And the CIA had a secret time travel program. So at my first week at SRI, at the Futures Unit, Willis Harmon, the head of the unit, took me aside and said, "Alfred, in the future, the U.S. is going to break up into many different regions."
Okay.
So one of my books is, in the future, will the United States of America break up into many regions? See, you have blue states versus red states. And right now, 33% of the people in the Trump states believe that their states should be foreign countries. So we don't know how that's going to work out. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Whether North America is going to absorb within the current constitutional order, right now, there's a bill in Texas on the ballot for Texas secession, the first since the Civil War, which is part of what they told me. So they were leaking secret information, possibly, that was on the CIA time travel. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, and we've got a lot of things people are sharing here. I'd love to cover with you after we finish this, because this is exactly, I hear what you're saying. I'm following what you're saying, but then we get into, if it's being leaked from the future into the past, are people doing what they're leaking from the future by following the program that's been leaked? Do you see where I'm going? Like, are they leaking it?
See, you can in time travel now using either eight forms of one of 8 forms of time travel. You can either go to the future and just take a picture of it. They have a thing like a chronovisor, which is like a television set. You put
Right.
in the address, the date, and the time, and it'll take you to that place in the future. And you'll see in the United States in the year 2030 is the
You're
United
reading my mind, Alfred.
is,
Go ahead.
is the United States going to, what is the United States going to be like? And then you do it that way. Or you take one of your secret operatives and you put them in a time travel machine and you send them to the future, and then you bring them back and you have them deployed. So I've written a whole number of books about that, where there's the chronography, the secret time travel government is sending people back and forth to the future. You follow me?
I do.
So we don't know what that's going to be like, because there's such tremendous differences going on in the United States between Trump and Biden, and there are those blue states and red states going on, and
Okay, so then I'm going to ask you this, and then people are sharing all kinds of thoughts here. Great comments. So you want to pick your brain, if that's okay, Alfred.
yeah.
What is the significance of this magic year in 6 years? We don't go beyond that. We don't hear much beyond this magic number 2030. What is the significance of that? Like, do you think does something have to be done by that time, or does it?
Okay, that fits into this, the chronography. Okay, that's an artificial number of the secret time travel government.
Okay.
And what they do is that they try to get things going. In other words, they planned World War I, World War II, World War III,
Yep.
2030, and then they planned the end of the human race and this planet being taken over by artificial intelligence. Okay, that's their view. Okay, and then there's us and there's God, right? And there's Jesus. And Jesus came down to make this the Lord's planet. And the universe governance has this as the Lord's view. So that's why, oh boy, I have so many. Where did I put? Oh, yeah.
You got too many books, Alfred. No such thing. I'm joking.
That's why the fifth apocalyptic revelation was sent, the Urantia book, which is the universe governance, was set down here to prevent this secret chronography from setting up the 2030, turning the planet into the transhumanist agenda,
Yep.
the AI, and we're right in the middle of that now.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of world that I live in. I'm kind of I come from a family of engineers, and I am a writer and thinker and an interdimensional engineer of the spiritual dimensions, and bringing the chronography out there, and a buster of the chronography, and a bringer in of the spiritual dimensions and the new earth. So that's sort of what I do now. I don't have any great, I'm not any prophesized being. I'm just me. So I don't have this great thing happening, except I happen to have written these books because Amazon makes it very easy to
I have to dip into your secrets because I got 3 books. I've been trying to get 3 books that I know I got the outline, the whole bit, and I need to get them written.
Well, somehow I got them written, but now I got to get them marketed.
Well, that's why you're here. And what's going to happen, I can tell you right now, Alfred, with what this discussion we're having, on air and off air, I am going to be passing a lot of this knowledge on to other people.
Well, nice.
Like yourself, I talk to sometimes 100 people a day, and we get into conversations sometimes like this, and I can see where a lot of people have been looking for some of these answers that you're speaking about. So I will definitely be a person that will be telling people about.
Great. Well, tell them just to go to Amazon and put in my name, and I'll tell them to go to the books.
Oh, I will.
And then there's a particular story. The story you're just teasing out the story of my different books, which is patterned after the story of what's happening out there and in there around the dimensions in the universe, the multiverse, and the omniverse.
This is a topic right up my alley. I've always loved to talk about it. We have people that have left us some great comments. Would you mind if I read them, and if you can add your feedback? So Jody says, my son, when he was little, told me the aliens came down and took him onto their ship and hooked up tubes to his arms. They told him that they needed him to save one of theirs. He said that there was a tube from his arm to a cow, and something his other arm had a tube going to the alien. After theirs was okay, they returned him. Easy to explain, much easier to explain when speaking amongst, face to face, it sounds like, with Jody. Have you heard of that before, Alfred?
Well, something like that happened to me. I was taken up to a ship. Andrew Bashago was brought up with me, so he would be a witness, so it wouldn't just be me talking. And I would have this attorney who could say, yep, I saw him up there. And while I was up there, I was, in essence, given the vision that you just saw in all of these books. I mean, where did all of this come from? It came from all the downloads that I was given while I was up in these ships.
But that's a unique experience that Jody's talking about. I don't think I've ever heard, if I read that right, that there was a tube from his arm to a cow. and from his other arm to the alien. Would that mean, I've never, I believe it. You know what? The way I look at things, I don't know everything, and I'm very open-minded. And I always say truth will reveal itself. Even something, I'm not saying what we're talking about is questionable, because this is right up my alley of discussion. But sometimes people will tell me something that seems really unusual or strange. So I always say I tuck it in my proverbial back shelf, because I truly believe truth will eventually reveal itself. So have you heard of anything like this before?
Well, put it this way: for the sun having aliens come down and taking him up to the ship, there are many cases of that, and there are many people that specialize in cases like that, and so they take the sun up to the ship. Now, the son had an experience of the alien being connected to the alien on one hand and being connected to the cow on the other. Now, probably what happened is that the aliens had the son have an experience of being connected to a cow.
So it was more acceptable.
Yeah, because that's how the son experienced it. Probably there was some other process going on.
Got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
In the sun, and then they just put that particular experience in it. Just like with me, the experience that I had when I went up, I was being prepped for, this was like my post grad. I was being prepped for a life with exopolitics, the omniverse, and the chronarchy, and getting this particular view out. Boom. And so that's what I want to do. And so I've had Oxford University Press come to me. I write books that are considered for publication by Oxford University Press, because I'm at that level. I've taught at two universities, Yale and at the University of Texas. I'm from the scientific method, so I'm a very specialized extraterrestrial contactee.
Can I, I just lost my train of thought. It was a question I wanted to ask you. Give me a minute. It's going to come back to me. I definitely agree with you, and that makes perfect sense in the way of what Jody had shared. Because even when I'm working and teaching and mentoring people with, say, spiritual concepts and things like that, I also help others who have had dark experiences. And what I believe is, even when it's from the spiritual form, and most likely ET too, is that they will appear to you in a form that is not going to terrify you. Like I've heard of many people's experiences, or even at the end of life, they see an angel with wings. Well, as far as I understand, the angels don't have wings, but as human beings, they've been depicted to us that way. So they don't want to scare you. So that would make sense about the cow. There could have been something maybe completely different, but to that child, they didn't want to terrify the child.
Yeah.
So the cow would be more acceptable, right?
So they created, for example, I'll give you a concept, and I think you can relate to this. One project which I've written about, Earth is under the control and the tutorship of the Regional Galactic Governance Council, which is the governance council of the Pleiadians, the Alpha Centaurians, kind of these regional, local, these regional, local civilizations,
right?
The Pleiades, and they've been that for the last million years. and then I've stated, well, Earth does not have a representative on the Regional Galactic Governance Council.
True.
So, so we should have a representative there.
Absolutely.
So I've written, and I put it on the top of my Twitter and all of that. I want to go. I want to be Earth's representative on the Regional Galactic Governance Council, right? And there's a website that I have called positivefuture.info, in which I make the case in which that I should be the Regional Galactic Governance Council's meeting, right? So, being a good, I have dual citizenship between Canada and the U.S. I have dual citizen, Canadian and American, and so what I did here then is I applied to my local member of parliament using a parliamentary procedure in the Canadian National Parliament to apply through my local parliamentary member to have her designate me and have Canada designate me as the Earth's representative to the Regional Galactic Governance Council.
Did she support you?
I think I blew her out of the water. She was supposed to be she was a, at the time, before she resigned, she was from Vancouver Island, from Victoria, and she was an Aboriginal woman. And I thought that she was going to rise to the occasion, but I think I blew her mind too much, you know.
I would think her people would know about the Sky people as being the First Nations people.
So that is the type of thing that I do, and I'm the chairman of the board of the Mars Anomaly Research Society, where there's life on Mars now, and I deal regularly with the U.S. Mars astronaut, where there's a U.S. colony on secret colony on Mars, and they have come to me, and so I'm going to start again becoming more active. So I'm doing these regular applications just to kind of test their muscles and test their. So it's not like we're looking for discs, well, all of the time. We're looking for, we're real people that are making these petitions. We're Earth people that are making petitions to be Earth's representatives to the Regional Galactic Governance Council. So that's part of what I do too.
Okay, so what I'm thinking about this, and what I receive from collectively, as I call spirit, and there's ET in there as well, because I truly believe, I don't think I've ever said this on this show, but I truly believe that somewhere within my lineage, I have come from the planet, I'm Illyrian. I don't know why. I keep hearing that from spirit.
No, well, that's where all of us come from. All of us humans are from the Lyra diaspora.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
We are, and we were attacked there by the Draco reptilians, and historically, exopolitically, in this universe, all of the humans have been scattered throughout this universe and these galaxies, and in this particular solar system, we had 3 or 4 planets that were inhabited just as Earth. We had Tiamat, which was a large human planet, Mars, Venus, and Earth. And there was a large there was those were all human verdant planets like Earth.
Okay.
At 705 years ago, the planet Tiamat, there was a reptilian human nuclear war,
Yep.
and it was blown up into the asteroid belt. It is now the asteroid belt because it was blown up in the human reptilian nuclear war.
Yep.
Because we are refugees in the diaspora from Lyra, and we're in competition with the reptilians for settlement rights in this solar system. And
Makes sense.
Mars was also affected. Mars used to be a verdant planet and was affected in that nuclear war and has become kind of a planet with a thin atmosphere and no vegetation. And
Don't
so
they live subterranean, as I understand it, in Mars? Any life
What?
that's still there? Don't they
What?
live subterranean? If there are any inhabitants, which I believe there may
yeah,
be.
what there are is that they are underneath the surface of
Yeah,
you.
subterranean. Yeah, I thought. Yeah.
There are 1 million Martis terrace. There are 1 million of our genetic cousins that live under the surface of Mars, who are the survivors of the Martian Tiamat nuclear war with the reptilians. The other planet in the solar system,
Venus,
which is up at 60, which is still surviving and thriving, is Venus, where the Venusians are thriving. But we here on Earth are still right at the edge where we haven't exited fully from the Lucifer rebellion. With the incarnation of Jesus and the landing of the fifth apocalyptic revelation through Urantia, they have started it, but we're still right in the middle of landing the divine incarnation here, and we're still fighting off the AI, artificial intelligence, reptilians who are still trying to blow up Earth in a thermonuclear war. Look what's happening in the Middle East. Look at what's happening in the Ukraine, Russia, China. We're still on that edge. So we're right in the middle of it now. How much time do we have left?
We got about 15 minutes or so. See how fast you're gonna have to come back on, Alfred, because I'm like utterly just like I don't usually like I'm just like sitting so close, just listening.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, sure.
Kathy Henley Little just said, "Wow, this is mind blowing, but it all resonates."
Oh, excellent! I'm so glad to be able to present a coherent picture. This is coming out of all of the time that I've spent, and I think that it really comes if you come into the Urantia book, which it was Christmas Eve, right?
A big present to you for the rest of your life,
right? And that was 1973. 72 going over to 1973, and that was when I really went into this whole period that has led to all of these works, because it gave me, and then I had my experience, which was in February of 1973. It was a missing time experience, just like your missing time experience. And what happened during that missing time experience, I was exposed to whatever it was that was necessary for this, and then during all this time I've been working in that field, producing all these works, and then we produced what we call an omniversity instead of a university for universes. An
Yeah, let's talk about that, Alfred, because that's why we said we were going to have you on. We only got a few minutes. Let's tell people. I do want to tell you that Zisan Dragon or Kevin says amazing show, and it does resonate. Yes. Hi, Cindy Simpson. Yeah, please tell them because we just got a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you these things. I've got such an intelligent, amazing audience that is so open-minded and really looking for answers and truth that resonates or information that resonates with them. So please share about Omniversity.
Yeah. Well, our Omniversity is where we hold classes and courses so we can all get together reading. I mean, our being together today would be like a seminar almost on Omniversity. In fact, with your permission, I'd like to take today's class and course and make it a class and course on Omniversity.
Absolutely.
Would that be okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would put it.
It's your show too.
and you can go, it's online. They have a way that's online. I have various classes. One is called omniversity.mn.co and omniversity.us. And then Kathy's asking for the Urantia book, and it's urantia.org. And you can get it all free there in all the major languages. You can just download it online, or you can download it in a PDF, and it's wonderful.
No, because people, like I say, a lot of people haven't heard this stuff. I've heard it before. I've always been very drawn to timelines and dimensions and multiverses. I do have what Kathy said, thank you. I have one question for you because I've not been able to find the answer to this. With quantum computers, what is your belief? Because they say quantum computers are computers of the future, but the research that I've done, nobody's really been able to answer where are they accessing this information that they're getting for the quantum computers, besides saying it's the quantum, but what is the quantum?
To answer that, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, so I don't want to give a misleading.
No worries. I just thought if you had heard about it, what it is. Yeah, what it is it's supposed to be the future of the computer.
As to what the quantum computer is, because I've done a book about artificial intelligence, the AI invasion, but I'm not sure what you mean by quantum computing. This is the book that I've done about AI.
What's it called, Alfred? That one, the AI one?
AI invasion, what ChatGPT and Suda Wright tell me.
I want to read that one for sure.
Yeah, this is because I was in 19, this is based on the, it's based on the Falkland Islands War, which was a false flag war in April to May 1982, in which the British, the reptilian Queen of England through Margaret Thatcher, actually created a false flag war in which they said that Argentina was invading the Falklands off of Argentina, which was false. Mm-hmm. But what they wanted to do was create a pretext to invade and go down beneath Tool Island in the Falklands Island, because the blue ETs, these upper dimensional ETs starting in World War I, had started reversing an artificial intelligence that had been placed there by negative ETs beneath Tool Island. And the blue
Okay.
ETs had formed a base there to reverse that had been placed there starting around World War One as an interdimensional time bomb to destroy the planet and destroy humanity by uh, by uh, by the Dracos who got us out of Lyra. So this continues that, and I confronted Margaret Thatcher. I was 10 feet away from her in 1982 at the UN in
Wow.
New York. So I've been following this for
Well, there's a reason why they called her the Iron Lady.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Wow, because like all of this resonates so much. Like, but what I've always been told, and again, I'll say by spirit, and that could include, like, I'm still mind blown about what you've told me about me always knowing just inherently I'm Lyrian, and then you telling me what you're telling me, or that I come from there, and we all do, is I've always been told that human beings are a young race, that other more evolved civilizations and species look at us and they get very puzzled by our penchant for depth and breadth of emotion, but also propensity for violence. So, um, do you think maybe that's why they haven't included a human representative? You volunteered yourself to be that representative, but on the council, because they kind of look at us like little kids, like the kid, this is adult work, like the kids don't belong here, kind of thing. Or what do you, or wanting to destroy humanity? Like, why would you want to
yeah,
destroy human
yeah.
beings?
Well, it's that thing of the Lucifer rebellion. So as soon as we get violence comes from the Lucifer
Absolutely.
rebellion. So as soon as we're over and evolving from the Lucifer rebellion, then we'll be
We'll be caught
beyond.
up.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes I wanted to tell you quickly. Okay, so the quantum computer supposedly is supposed to be the computer of the future. It is gazillions times faster than a regular, what we know nowadays as a computer. And from what I understand, I'm not a computer expert. I do enjoy tech and it's a hobby, but it accesses the way it's set up. It's supposed to go into an alternative dimension and access the information and bring it forward. As I'm explaining this to you, though, I'm almost feeling like this is some kind of mechanism coming from the time travel that you've been talking about, because it's supposed to be able to get with such accuracy and to be able to access the information, but nobody that's presented it. And I've watched quite a few presentations. They haven't been able to say what dimension or where is this computer going to access the information that it's retrieving for the user.
yeah. I I would have to study the quantum computer
Fair enough. Fair enough.
because I don't know its relationship to AI, artificial intelligence, and to the various di- dimensions, and what its relationship is to the universe,
Yeah.
multiverse, and to the spiritual
Mhm.
di- dimensions. I just haven't targeted that particular subject matter.
I respect that you haven't, and that's why maybe you were meant to hear about it today. I don't
Yeah,
know, but
exactly.
I have been fascinated by this because they keep, and you'll see the big tech companies will put a few workshops and stuff on about this. But I got questions like, where, that's not good enough for me that it's going into another dimension to access. I want to know, where's that information coming from?
Yeah, yeah. I'd have to check what the dimension is. Are you talking about a dimension in this universe?
Yeah,
Uh, is it a spiritual
exactly.
dimension? Is it connected to artificial? intelligence. There's a lot of unknown questions.
That's why I asked you, because to be able to have this kind of conversation with you, this isn't a conversation that you can have with somebody while you're standing in line. It's too bad that we can't. But to be open-minded and to be able to talk to you about these concepts, I really appreciate you coming on. And obviously the audience has too, because a lot of people aren't talking about this, but I think they should be.
Indeed. Well, I really appreciate being able to share this with you and being able to take its next steps now. And I look forward to getting the MP4 from this, and I'll put this
Yep.
up on Omniversity at the Omniversity platform, and I'll send you the link when it's a course, a class rather, at Omniversity.
I will definitely share it with everyone. So we are just about out of time. This went by so fast. Like I said, I'm going to have you back on again, Alfred. But how can people, like, do you want to give them all your links, where to find your books, everything? I always do this at the end of the show. I would have told you before. I'm so glad you were able to make it. Usually I have a quick little chat, but we did good. I think we did great. But just so people know where to find you and everything.
Yeah. Well, people, my books, you can go to universebooks.com, and Omniversity is omniversity.mn.co and omniversity.us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. Like I said, I am going to have you back on, because this was an absolutely fascinating discussion, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
I want to let you guys know too. Thank you for all your great comments and questions. As always, I always say to y'all, Alfred and I could have a wonderful conversation like this off air, but it's better when you guys are here, because you guys add all your thoughts and questions and comments, and you make the Angel Rock the show that it is. So thank you. Next week, we have Dr. Frederick Woodard coming on, and he's been booked for a while too, like Alfred. So it's going to be a great show, you guys. We always have great guests on this show, you know that. Also, same time, same space, obviously, Monday with the Angel Rock, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you're going to see me on Thursday with David Hansel at 7 p.m. with The Thing at the Foot of the Bed. Don't forget about our group, The Thing at the Foot of the Bed, with Lorilei Potvin and David Hansel. If you guys got questions, you got comments, you guys want to see a show idea, you got some spooky things you want to share with the group, when we get to 200 people, we are well over 100 now. David and I are going to start going live in that group, and we're going to start doing one question readings for you, as well as answering questions live. Also, if you ever want to get a hold of me to book a reading, I do Akashic Records readings, I do crystal Reiki, psychic mediumship, and eventually I'll probably get into, I think, some animal communication as well. Still working on that. You can get a hold of me on facebook.com/Angel Rock. Fastest and easiest way to get a hold of me, though, is on Facebook Messenger. If you want to send me a message, I am on every single social media platform you can think of, either under the Angel Rock or Lorilei Potvin. And don't forget the other two groups I have: Paranormal University for more things along the paranormal or ufology, ET line, and then I have the Angel Rocker Tribe for more spiritual type concepts. So I want to thank you again, Alfred. Stay tuned for the show coming up next. It's the Horsefly Chronicles with Julia and Phil Syracusa. They're good friends, and they got a great show. And otherwise, I will see y'all on Thursday and then next Monday. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alfred.